Nearly half of Brits think that young people are failing to get onto the property ladder because they spend too much money on Netflix, on takeaway coffee and food, on mobile phones, and on holidays abroad. That's according to new research by King's College London. That same report, though, from King's College rightly points out that the real reason home ownership is so low among today's under-40s is the staggering rise in house prices and the huge deposits needed to buy a home these days, after a decade and more of stagnating wages. After extensive polling, King's College research suggested that nearly half, that's 48% of Brits, strongly or tend to agree that young people are failing to get onto the property ladder because they spend too much on luxuries. Far fewer, just 29% strongly or tend to disagree with that characterisation, with the rest undecided. Now, the reality is that back in the mid-90s, when I bought my first property, almost 70% of 25 to 34-year-olds owned their own home. Today, it's less than 40%. That's why UK home ownership's now below the European average, as generation rent has grown. We're no longer a nation of homeowners. But that's not because today's young adults are feckless and spend too much. It's because back in the mid-90s, the average house price was around 4 times average earnings. Today, that affordability ratio has surged to 9 times average earnings, which means, when combined with tighter lending rules, that millions, yes, millions of hard-working young couples simply cannot buy a home. Half of first-time buyers get help from the bank of mum and dad, rising to 2/3 in London and the South East. Very nice if that applies to you. But for those not from families with property, it's deeply, deeply frustrating. The real problem here isn't young adults overspending on luxuries. Younger generations are being locked out of home ownership due to soaring runaway house prices, itself the result of a fundamental shortage of homes. Are young adults forced to rent because they spend too much money on luxuries? That's our on-the-money question today.